A pleasant evening to you and warm welcome to the Business Live segment, coming to you live from our studios here at Kokoro Memle in Accra. In our headlines, World Bank admits stringent disbursement rules pushed Ghana to miss out on more than $2 billion in project funding.
The procurement rules, stringent, are sometimes cumbersome and long. And we do understand, and when sometimes countries, clients call it, it just takes too long. And sometimes they are right.
Also in this bulletin, the United Kingdom announces introduction of radically simplified trading rules and a cut in tariffs on products from developing countries, saving UK businesses and consumers millions of pounds a year. And President Akufo-Addo highlights the importance of building a strong financial institution in Africa to fund infrastructure projects. Meanwhile, he has taken a swipe at international rating agencies, describing their downgrades of sovereign nations as unfair and reckless.
Which recently had to deal with one of the most difficult periods in its post-independent history. Difficulties which were exacerbated by the reckless behavior of rating agencies that engaged.
We have details of these and many others coming your way shortly. Please stay. Grateful you could stay with me. I am Pius Kojo Baka. To our very first story, President Akufo-Addo has taken a swipe at international rating agencies for unfairly and recklessly downgrading sovereign nations, particularly Ghana, during the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war, a move that has impacted negatively on their economies. According to him, the downgrades of some African economies have completely shut them from accessing the international capital market, which hitherto helped them to raise funds to support their liquidity needs. Now, in a speech to pay tribute to the remarkable contribution of the Africa Export and Import Bank, President Akufo-Addo hinted that a timely support by the bank took Ghana out of many challenges. He was speaking at the ongoing anniversary and annual general meeting of the Afri-Exim Bank in Accra. At the annual meetings of the Afri-Exim Bank in Accra, President Akufo-Addo said Ghana's economic difficulties were compounded by the downgrades from the rating agencies. According to him, the country, which had become the favorite child of bondholders, was suddenly shut out of the international capital markets.
And I can comfortably and convincingly say this. As the AU champion for African financial institutions and leader of a country which recently had to deal with one of the most difficult periods in its post-independent history, difficulties which were exacerbated by the reckless behavior of rating agencies that engaged in pro-cyclical downgrades, shutting Ghana out of capital markets and turning a liquidity crisis into a solvency crisis. Afri-Exim Bank, under its counter-cyclical response mechanism, provided timely support to help Ghana navigate the macroeconomic management challenges worsened by Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine in an orderly manner, when suddenly we realized we were alone.
President of the Afri-Exim Bank, Professor Benedict Urama, assured of ongoing initiatives to expand banking reach to many citizens since most global banks are exiting the continent.
As international banks continue to withdraw from Africa, we've also made significant progress in improving access to letters of credit and other trade services across the entire continent. We have swift communication arrangements with almost 500 of the 600 regulated commercial banks in Africa, making Afri-Exim Bank perhaps the bank with the most extensive reach on the continent. Trade lines have been made available to more than 200 of these banks, an aggregate amount of over $4 billion, halfway to our target of $8 billion by the end of 2026. Whether you are in Comoros, Nigeria, Chad, Zimbabwe, Cape Verde, Tunisia, there is a bank that can offer you a window to offer bank services.
Minister of Finance Ken Oforiatta used the occasion to call on the banks to expedite action in ensuring many African countries recover from the current challenges.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we contemplate the effects of the recent public crisis and deliberate on the future of our Exim Bank, it is increasingly clear that now is the moment of fierce urgency to deliver on our bank's vision of building prosperity and improving the fortunes of 1.4 billion lives on our continent. A continent that by 2050 will have a quarter of the world's population, some 800 million youth, and hopefully a 16 trillion economy as AFCFTA foresees.
The three-day event is termed as the first gathering of Global Africa in Accra. Meanwhile, economist Professor Lord Mensah has described President Akufo-Addo's reaction to ratings agencies' assessment of the economy as uncalled for. According to Professor Mensah, government needs to manage the economy well to withstand global shocks and avoid blaming rating agencies.
Clearly, I think the president needs to appreciate that the Eurobond market is not a sustainable source of financing, a country. I mean, clearly, you cannot rely on borrowing finance your activities. We should also understand that the parameters and the models that are used to come up with a rating has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the circumstances and then the country-specific problems. So if we look at the global exposures and then you look at a country-specific problem, put them in the model, whatever comes out is what is interpreted for the consumption of the general investor community, looking at Ghana and then elsewhere. So I think blaming the rating agencies won't change anything, because at the end of the day, you are looking at same model, and then possibly same input that is supposed to generate an output. Whatever happened, you should manage your country to a level where the global shocks will not have much of a problem when it comes to externalities of that sort. So if the country was to be a country where we've managed our economy very well, we have very good buffers, in as much as those global shocks will have impact, it wouldn't have been as much as we are experiencing now. So that blame on the rating agencies, for me, it's uncalled for.
All right, so we've got to interrogate and, of course, analyze the president's criticisms to the various rating agencies. Let's get on to Zoom and speak to financial economist and chairman of SEM Group, Dr. Sam Mensah, who had also in the past worked on Ghana's Eurobond fundraising exercise. First off, sir, pleasure you could join me on Business Live. For the purposes of education, help us understand the workings of these agencies.
Okay, well, thanks for inviting me to the show. Basically what the rating agencies do is to continuously assess the credit quality of a borrower. And so they monitor a common set of indicators for all countries and all borrowers. And then as they see changes in the indicators, positive or negative, they adjust their ratings accordingly. So it's not really like they're targeting a specific country or specific borrower, but they are rather looking at indicators. And as they see the indicators change, they adjust their ratings accordingly. So in Ghana's case, they were monitoring all our critical indicators, debt indicators, on a consistent basis for maybe as far back as about 2006 or so. And then, every time there's a change in the credit quality, they adjust the rating. So the rating is actually a consequence of what kind of data they are collecting about your debts, your ability to service your debts.
So we do know that these agencies are contracted by countries and, of course, companies for these assessments as part of requirement to raise funds from the capital market. Is that so?
That is indeed the case. It's just like a company paying an audit firm to audit its accounts. The ratings work the same way, because you really, what you want to achieve for your creditors is a third-party certification of your ability to service your debt, and that is why borrowers pay rating agencies to rate them.
Let's come to the president's comments on the ratings agencies. Justified, or let's say it was misled, he would say.
Okay, I haven't heard the details of the comment, but
well, go ahead, sir.
Well, what I'm hearing from other sources is that we are criticizing the rating agencies for being unfair to African countries. If that is the criticism, then I think it's probably not quite representative of how the rating agencies work, because as I said earlier, the rating agencies are monitoring the same indicators for all borrowers, including African countries. And therefore, they monitor and change their ratings according to what they are reading from these indicators. And mind you, there are quite a few African countries that have very good ratings. For example, Botswana has an investment grade rating of BBB, which is quite high. So I think in general, the work of the rating agencies are reasonably neutral and very objective.
Well, so how bad is this posturing from government? And of course, this is not the first time we are hearing from government speak on this issue. But for us as a country, because we are still working with these ratings agencies, really, what posture do you think this really sends to the ratings agencies?
Well, I think the rating agencies will continue to do their work, and their work is to certify the credit quality of an issue coming to the market. In many countries, including the United States got downgraded in 2011, and the UK got downgraded, I believe, in 2023 by S&P. So they will continue to do their work. I don't think they will be deterred by any such comments.
There's been this call for African countries, or Africa basically, to have its own ratings agency. Do you think it's time we take a look at that?
I'm not sure how that would play out. It seems to me that international investors are looking for certification from rating agencies that have worldwide or global standards for rating. And therefore, I don't see it as something that is so easy to implement in terms of creating Africa's own rating agency.
We are indeed grateful, Dr. Sam Mensah, for your time here on Business Live. He is a financial economist speaking to us there. And while longer on issues that has to do with the economy, and of course, one of our topical stories we are following up for you, the World Bank has admitted that stringent disbursement rules made it difficult for Ghana to draw down on a number of project funds. It is estimated that Ghana missed out on more than $2 billion of funds set aside for projects because of the structuring of procurement processes to check corruption. But the World Bank Country Director, Pierre Laporte, says the bank is taking steps to deal with this challenge.
We are approaching end of the fiscal year. I'm pushing the teams to please let's make sure we disburse. But then some people will tell me, Pierre, there's so many problems in this ministry, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes when I go and talk to the minister, we find that problems actually sometimes on our side. Because of the procurement rules, stringent, sometimes cumbersome and long. And we do understand, and when sometimes the country's clients call, tell it just takes too long. And sometimes they are right. And our role is to try to see how we can be more flexible. And in this context, there's actually an initiative inside the World Bank now. It's called the Evolution Roadmap, where the World Bank is taking a look at ourselves, at how we operate now, and in the next few months and next year or so, we will come out with a new approach. Not necessarily new, but we will see what is not working, how we can do better, and procurement will surely be one of the things that we will be taking in mind.
Now to some trade-related stories, and the United Kingdom has today announced the introduction of radically simplified trading rules and a cut in tariffs on products from developing countries, saving UK businesses and consumers millions of pounds a year. Now, the UK's new post-Brexit developing countries trading scheme, known as the DCTC scheme, entering into force today, covers 65 countries that are home to over 3.3 billion people, and over half are in Africa. Now, the move, as stated in the press release, is to ensure that more products qualify for the scheme, as well as benefit developing countries looking to diversify and increase exports, driving their prosperity and reducing their need for aid. Joining me on Zoom is West Africa Regional Director of CATS International, Apia Kusi Adumako, for more on this. Pleasure, sir, to have you on Business Live this evening. Now, what does this new trade post-Brexit scheme mean to Ghana?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. I think Ghana, as we've been informed, or we are all aware, our fundamentals have not been good for the past 2 years. And if we can improve on our export, it means that we can have enough forests to be able to support our balance of trade and keep the cedi strong against the major trading currencies. And so for me, I think this is something that Ghana can take advantage of.
Well, there are quite a number of UK businesses in Ghana as we speak, and if this trading scheme is unfavorable, will they be forced to relocate from Ghana, do you think?
Please, can you take the question again, sir?
I am saying that there are quite a number of UK businesses in Ghana as we speak. And if this trading scheme is unfavorable, do you think they will be forced to relocate from Ghana?
Yes, but I don't think they would consider leaving Ghana. What we have to do as a country is to make sure that we create the enabling environment to allow the private sector here to be able to produce and export to other countries. Unfortunately, we've not done well over the past 1.5 years, simply because we have consistently been increasing our electricity tariffs, and also the other macroeconomic indicators have also conspired against the private sector. And so if we want to ensure that businesses stay and remain here to take advantage of it, export the products to the United Kingdom and return their proceeds to support the cedi, I think that we must also create the enabling environment. Of course, government has been saying this thing for a long time, but I think they will need to do more to ensure that the private sector, they are able to export competitively. Just last week, for example, we learned that the Ghana Hoteliers Association have criticized the recent increase in utility tariffs. We are gradually making Ghana a difficult place to do business, and until we consciously make it to the place to do business, we might not be able to take advantage of all of these brilliant initiatives.
In case trading scheme, or basically this trading scheme doesn't benefit Ghana, what will be your recommendations to the government?
I think what we need to do is that we need to identify which Ghanaian products that can do well in the United Kingdom. That is the first step. And we need to identify which businesses and which companies have the capacity to be able to export in commercial quantities to the United Kingdom. And then we need to support those businesses for them to be able to take advantage of those trade. I think that is my recommendation to government. When we do that, we should be able to get the best out of this DCT initiative.
West Africa Regional Director, CATS International, Apia Kusi Adumako. Grateful for your time here on Business Live. You're still watching Business Live with me, Pius Kojo Baka. There'll be more after this break.